Welcome. We're going to start monohybrid crosses, and there are two different worksheets that we're going to be going through. The first one is crossings, and this one's going to be very basic. We're going to look at symbols, parents, and then some basic Punnett squares. The next worksheet will actually build on that, so we just want to get the foundation. Basically, if you don't set up the parents correctly, just like any math problem, everything after that may possibly be incorrect. So this is kind of very important to get this down correctly. So always read the directions no matter what. It tells me to write the symbols and the parental crossings for each. It also tells me what letter to use. That's very important, that if it gives you that direction, make sure you follow that. Now, you've already watched the video, Intro to Genetics, and so you should have some of this terminology. So if you need to go back and review that, please do so. So homozygous means the same. So in this case, if I put homozygous, that means it's going to be the same letter. And remember that my alleles, there are two alleles for every trait. So that means both alleles, both letters will be the same. Another word for homozygous would be pure. I could use that term. Heterozygous means different. Another word I could use would be hybrid. I'm going to look at what I'm going to be crossing. So let me read through it once, and then I'll go back and pull out the key words before I start setting it up. I have homozygous dominant round seed coat cross, so that means that X means a cross, with a homozygous recessive wrinkled seed coat, and it tells me to use the letter R. So it looks like my contrasting alleles for my one trait, what that means, my one trait is seed coat, my contrasting alleles is round and wrinkled. So I'm going to write down my symbols. So I have round and I have wrinkled. And it says round is dominant, and I'm going to use a capital R. And wrinkled is recessive. Don't change the letter. The letter, no matter if it's capital or lowercase, each letter indicates a trait. So don't make up a new letter. So since it's a recessive, recessive is a lowercase, so I need a lowercase r. So that's my symbols. Now my parental cross. Homozygous means the same, so homozygous dominant round, I'm going to have two capital R's. There's my cross, and my second parent is homozygous recessive wrinkled. So homozygous again means the same, so two lowercase r's. I could, and we'll get to this later also, but I just want to point this out, that if it did not give me this information, if I had wrinkled, the only way it could be wrinkled is to be homozygous recessive. That is absolutely the only way, because if there's any dominant allele, it's going to mask or cover up the recessive trait. So let's go to the second one. Now I'm going to use the letter R again. So it looks like I've got seed coat, I've got round and wrinkled, and rewrite everything. Now I have a hybrid, new word, and pure recessive. Just changing the terminology a little bit. Hybrid. Hybrid, remember, is the same as heterozygous, so I'm going to have one of each letter, capital R, lowercase r. But you notice it's going to be round because the dominant is masking the recessive allele. Here's my cross. Pure recessive wrinkled. Pure is the same as homozygous, so basically it's the same as what it was up above. And again, I could have left off pure and recessive and just put wrinkled. I also could have just left off and put recessive wrinkled, because to be wrinkled it has to be homozygous recessive. Next, I have hair color. I've got brown and I've got white, and it tells me to use the letter B. So brown is dominant, capital B. White is recessive, a lowercase b, not a W. My first parent, homozygous dominant brown. So that tells me both letters. If I just put brown, and I did not give me, if it just did this, if it just said brown, I'd have two choices. I could go homozygous dominant. I could also go heterozygous. So in this case, I need to know, is it homozygous or heterozygous, okay? And then my other trait is going to be homozygous recessive white. Just like the other two, the only way it can be white is to be homozygous recessive or pure white. Number 4, I've got pod color now. So I've got green and I've got white. Letter G, so green, well, it says it's heterozygous, so I'm assuming that it's going to be the dominant, but let me go ahead and read the rest of this. So white, yep, white is recessive. So this gets a capital G and white gets a lowercase g. So if you're not sure, read the rest of it. Let's do the parents. Heterozygous green, big G, little g, homozygous recessive white, 2 little g's. Number 5. Now I have, it's worded just a little bit different, but I can still figure it out. 2 hybrid tall pea plants. So those are my parents. Now I need to figure out my symbols. Tall is dominant over short. So height is my trait, my one monohybrid trait I'm looking at. So tall, short, tells me to use the letter T. Tall is dominant, capital T, short, lowercase t. Hybrid. What that means, need to go back and refer to this. Hybrid means heterozygous, so different alleles. So 2 hybrid pea plants, that means both parents are heterozygous or hybrid. So if you need to pause and look over that, go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead, if you haven't paused, let's go ahead and move on to the Punnett squares. So I've already done the symbols, I've done the parents, now we need to make a Punnett square. A couple of ways you can make a square. I was taught that you do a backwards L, couple of horizontal, couple of vertical. You're not using this box. The closed-in boxes are your possible offspring. The boxes that have open sides is where your parents go. I've also seen people that just draw like that, and then they know they're going to put their parents on the top and the bottom. It's just whatever, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to put one parent on the top, one parent on the side, and when I was taught, it was drilled into my head that the first parent goes on top and the second parent goes on the side. It does not matter, you'll still get the same results. So let's put one allele from each parent goes in each open space. Okay? My second parent, again, one allele in each open space. To cross, I'm going to bring one down and one across. So I'm going to bring big B. So this B comes down, this B comes across. Same thing here, it just happens to be exactly the same. Now this time I'm going to bring big B and little b. Always a good idea and very good practice to always put the dominant first, okay? It's very rarely do you see it like that, except when we get to gametes, and we'll talk about that in dihybrid. But, so it's easy when we get to pheno and genotype, especially phenotype, to always put the dominant allele first. Okay? And our last Punnett square, we've got round and wrinkled. Let me make my square again, and again, you can do it any way that you want to, your choice. So one allele in each for the one parent. Here's the second parent. And now I'm going to fill in the Punnett square. Okay? So that is our first worksheet. Like I said, the next one will get more in depth, but make sure you understand this completely. I cannot stress enough that do not change letters. So I should not see different letters for one allele. When we get to dihybrid, you will have 2 letters, one for each trait. Okay, well, thank you, and have any questions, just let me know.